Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday evening introduction to LifeWave, where we talk about a very special company, an amazing technology, a brilliant scientist, and then we bring on a special guest. We have a really extraordinary evening tonight because we have a new guest that I'm going to introduce in a little bit. So once we bring our guest on, then we'll spend a few minutes together, and then it's your turn. And if you have questions or stories to share, please put them in the Q&A section, because then it'll be really, really easy for me to see. Okay, let's get started. So I am your host this evening, Robin Blake Mascari, and thrilled to be here to talk about a really, really special company. And I'm going to copy Gregory a little bit because I love the way he starts things out. And one of the things that we've learned is that we finally figured out what we want to be when we grow older, younger. So how do we do that? That's what we're going to talk about this evening. And, live in this question. If there was one thing that could be better in your health, one thing, what might that be? And what difference would it make? And now we're going to jump into talking about the technology that can help you with that. So, welcome to the stem cell revolution. And if you guys don't realize it, it's all over the place. Stem cells are the future of medicine. It's a very, very exciting technology. And traditionally, stem cells, when you get them, typically they're through injections, and they're expensive, they're controversial, could be painful, and there is no guarantee. But several years ago, our brilliant scientists cracked the code on how to activate your own younger stem cells and make it affordable for everyone. And it's your own younger stem cells. And what happens when that happens is very exciting, because when we're young and we start out life as babies, we have about 1 billion stem cells. And then by the time we're in our mid-30s, about half left. By the time we're 60, 10% left, and they're older and they're not as active. And the less stem cells we have, the faster we age, the slower we heal. And so having more stem cells can make a huge difference in how you look, feel, and perform. And our genius scientist, a brilliant man, David Schmidt, has been on this path to crack the code of regeneration, anti-aging, and has been doing research for decades. And he released a technology in January of 2019 that is changing the world. This technology activates something very special. It's a copper peptide called GHK-Cu. And we invite you to do your own research on your favorite search engine or on PubMed.gov to find out this copper peptide actually is known in scientific circles as the holy grail of health, healing, and regeneration. And that, which is just amazing, that the billion-dollar companies have tried to activate this copper peptide unsuccessfully. And David Schmidt, with over 130 patents and over 90 clinical studies, has figured out how to do this. And he is, kind of a hero around the world in the scientific world. And we are thrilled because it's made a huge change with us. So let me just talk about the company a little bit, and then I'll get back to the technology and the star of the show, which is our lead product called X39. LifeWave is a company that's been around since 2004. The very first product David had created and developed on a government contract for the Navy SEALs to help them stay awake in their mini subs without any stimulants or toxins or chemicals. And it was very effective at keeping them. Sometimes they have to stay awake for 42, 48 hours. And so this was amazing. But then 9/11 happened and the government had different priorities. And he founded the company in 2004 called LifeWave. And this company is a very special company. And to this day, we're in over 75 countries around the world with 15 distribution centers. And that's a new one because we just opened a new one last week in Thailand. We have offices in California, in Utah, and in Ireland. And the company is very exciting because when it's been around a while, but when this new product came out in January of 2019, the company tripled in size, and it's safe, it's affordable, and the best news is it activates your own younger stem cells, and it does many, many other things for people. So we're thrilled that we get to share this with the world. And let me make sure I covered everything else. So let's see. So the technology is actually, it's called photobiomodulation, which is a big word. And it's a proven scientific principle that a frequency of light can actually cause a biochemical change in your body. So the easiest way to think about this is when the sun hits your skin, your body creates vitamin D, or it creates melanin and you get a suntan. So a frequency of light is causing a biochemical change. And that's the same kind of science that we're using with the technology of these patches. And in 2019, X39 was launched to the world. And now millions of people all over the world are getting amazing benefits. Things like pain reduction, youth renewal, fine lines and wrinkles kind of disappearing, because when you're younger, guess what? Your body creates more collagen, less aches and pains, increased athletic performance, better sleep. Anyone want any of those? It's pretty darn wonderful. So we're really thrilled to share this with the world. And what I want to do is bring on a special guest tonight. And our guest, this is her first time being on this call. And she is one of our leaders in the business. She comes to us with a background in nursing, actually 45 years as a registered. She doesn't look that old. She worked in the school districts for 12 years. She's been employed in hospitals for 30 years, a school nurse, and then she became certified in nutrition and worked in chiropractors' offices. And now she's the owner of Proactive Health as a nutritionist and works with clients individually and in groups with the metabolic model. She is passionate about making a difference in people's health. And I love learning from this woman. Welcome, Ann Moreau.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. I love it. I love it. So, Ann, as a healthcare practitioner, and you have been in many, many different worlds in the public and private sector and working with individuals, working with groups, what is it that got you interested to take a deeper look into LifeWave?
Well, I was really looking for something that was innovative and something that I'd never been exposed to, but that was really working. I mean, that had some science behind it. That was really important for me. And I did a lot of digging and looking at the science before I even, engaged in getting into the company and using the patches. And it was really important for me to know that there was more coming. I wanted to know that this wasn't the end, that there was still more research coming, more innovation coming that would help people with their health. Because as a nurse, that's what I'm all about, right? I mean, I really shifted about 20 years ago when I was working in the disease model, and I saw, personally that I was not getting better. And I saw alternatives working so much better. Even though in medicine, we say we have evidence-based medicine, I didn't get the results that I got using alternatives. So it was very exciting to go work in a chiropractor's office. She was an acupuncturist. She did kinesiology. So I got to be exposed to all of those technologies. So when I looked at LifeWave, I was really excited about the potential, but even more excited when I started to use the patches and saw the differences. I've worked as a nurse in drug and alcohol, and I've worked with opiate addictions. I've worked with pain management, and I'd never seen anything out there work as well as this technology for a lot of those issues. So, and to be able to offer somebody something that doesn't create addiction is powerful. So many people are looking for alternative solutions. They just don't want to be addicted to something that will cause harm eventually. So It's really exciting tech, and I love it. I love being part of this company. I love everything it represents.
That's so beautiful. And I've not even heard that whole story before. So it's fun for me to learn from you about your history. Yeah, there's that shift. There's that point that a lot of us get to going, there's got to be a better way. This isn't working. We know we can find something. And you said some really wonderful things that, you wanted something that was going to continue to grow and blossom. And David, the X39 activating the copper peptide activates 4,192 genes, which is a third of our genes, and he's going for 100%. And so he's constantly in the laboratory. He's got 130 patents. He's in competition with his uncle who had 150, and we know he's going to way surpass him because David's going to live a very long time. But it's got the science behind it, which we've attracted thousands of healthcare practitioners. One, because of the science, but two, it works. And your results and what you're seeing, to be able to have people have pain relief so easily, naturally, safely, affordably, doesn't get much better, does it?
It does not.
I know. And we get to share this with the world. So a lot of people, there's some people that are brand new this evening, and this term stem cells may be really new to them. From your perspective as a healthcare practitioner, why do you believe that stem cells are so important at this stage?
Well, that's where we begin, right? We're in utero in mom's wound, and we're stem cells, and those stem cells differentiate into different organs. And then we are little human beings, and we grow. When we're 20 years old, we're producing quite a few stem cells. But then we start to hit 30 and they start to decline, and they just keep declining with age. And by the time you're 50, 60, we're not producing too many stem cells. And by 70, probably not too much at all. And that's really where I'm at. I'm a few months away from 70. And being exposed to this technology has been life-changing for me over the past 2 years. I mean, I've seen remarkable things happen. Initially, I have to share, I did not see the results that I was hearing a lot of people talk about. I got a deeper sleep night. I noticed things like I would go longer with not having to get up to go to the bathroom at night, which was, getting to be more of a problem for me. But I didn't notice the changes till maybe 6 months to a year later. Things like the brown spots on the skin were disappearing. I was seeing the fine lines, less wrinkling. I was seeing a lot of those particular changes and it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time, and people need to realize that it's happening. You don't feel your stem cells decline, and you don't necessarily feel the stem cells, increasing, but you certainly, if you pay attention, will really notice some major changes over time, but it does take time.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because there are some people that they can feel it instantly, and that's very exciting and wonderful. But honestly, that's not everybody. And so how long do you recommend people, use X39 before either introducing other patches or saying, this is a fit for me, this isn't a fit for me? What do you say to people?
Usually I tell them 30 to 60 days, and even 90 days is a great way to sort of get started. And then we can talk about, and if I'm dealing with somebody who, for example, is saying, well, I've tried the X39 for a month, I really want something, there's something else I'm looking to improve, we might talk about introducing another patch then, but I really truly encourage them to at least do the first 30 days with just X39.
Thank you so much for that, because X39 is so comprehensive. It may be the only product that people need. I mean, personally, I used it for 90 days before I introduced anything else. And I was bone on bone on my left knee, and I'd had a knee replacement on my right knee. And I was in a lot of pain, and I put it at the top of my spine. It's right there. That's what it looks like. And a week later, the pain in my knee was gone. And I'm going, which is fun when it works like that. It wasn't instant. It took some time. But what's beautiful is when it's 3 inches from your body, what's happening?
It's activating that stem cell, right? Absolutely. And it's interesting because sometimes we put the X39 on, and I mean, like, I didn't quite notice a lot quickly, but some people put it on and it's like this. They're having back issues and they're saying, oh my God, it's so much better. One of my friends who's had lower, really lower deep back issues, it took her 2 months. But at the end of 2 months, she started saying, I'm getting up in the morning and I don't have that anymore. It's gone. It's gone. It just sort of gradually happened over that period of time, which for her is very exciting. When you're dealing with this for years and all of a sudden you're not having it anymore, it's really pretty great.
So do you recommend people use the health tracker before they start?
That's a great thing to do. If you're connected with somebody that's got you on this call tonight, connect with them and ask them to send you the health tracker if they've not sent it to you. You want to be able to check off today and where you're at. And then in 24 hours, what did you notice? I mean, I certainly noticed a deeper sleep in 24 hours. You may notice something else. Some people have said better energy, so whatever it is, check it off and then check again in 24 hours and 48 hours and in 30 days and 60 days, because you will begin to be able to track those particular changes that you might not have paid attention to, that have clear. I mean, I've had people say to me, wow, I went for my eye appointment and my vision is better. Wow, how did that happen? Right? So you don't know where the stem cells are going to go in the body and what they're going to repair. That's not up to us. They have their own way of finding where damage is, and they go and do that repair work.
It's so beautiful, and everyone is different, and the things that we might want may take longer because stem cells, they have this innate wisdom to go where they're most needed in order of what's most life-threatening. So the health tracker, gives you a baseline, but also helps you pay attention to things that you might not think of, like Ann talked about eyesight. Who would think that your eyesight would get better? And a lot of times people like to do a baseline blood panel and watch the changes there, because interesting things happen. So start that way. So let's get into using this product. Who's it for and who isn't it for?
That's a great question. I'll tell you, I have grandchildren. I use it on them. and as long as they can talk and tell you, be able to speak to you, they tell you, ma'am, I'm hurting, so if they got hurt and it's not getting better, we'll just patch them and they instantly get results. My 92-year-old mom is using them consistently, and we've seen remarkable results with her, including, brain changes with her, memory and things that stamina. She's exercising twice a week, and she's really noticing some great, even energy that, as you get older, that declines. So everybody can use this patch. There are instances, however, that people shouldn't use it. And that's for people who've had, for example, an organ transplant. We don't recommend them for organ transplants. People who are maybe taking chemotherapy, because chemotherapy is about destroying all cells, right? That's what you're kind of doing. And we're trying to regenerate cells. And so oncologists don't necessarily want us to do that. It's contraindicated in this case. So those are the two areas. Sometimes we're asked about pregnant women, and I know that some of the docs here have mentioned that they don't have a problem with people patching. I really leave it to the individual. You might want to wait after the first trimester and then put them on, but it doesn't enter the body. It's non-transdermal, as you said earlier, Robin. So there's nothing that enters the system, which is the part that I love about this technology, because you don't have to worry about medications and supplements and all of that interacting. This is light going through the skin that is activated by the heat of your body, the infrared heat of your body. So there is no interaction with anything. So it's beautiful technology.
And isn't it wonderful to have something that's safe? The company's been around for 17 years, and, like you said, nothing is going in the body, and the body will never hurt itself. And what can people expect? And I mean, are there any adverse reactions, anything people should pay attention to if it doesn't feel great right away? What do you say to that?
Sure. Sometimes I've had people who might have had what we call retracing or even some detox, and I remember having one lady in particular, and this is very unusual, but it does happen. I had one lady that we had used the X39, and she messaged me and said she was exhausted, totally exhausted. Now, that doesn't happen typically. That's not what we see, right? So you always want to go a little deeper and find out, why would this be happening with her? And in her case, she had had high mercury levels in her blood. So as X39 raises glutathione levels by 30%, it will also create this detox, right? And as you're detoxing, it takes energy to detox. And that's why she was feeling that fatigue. So wearing it at night was something we encourage her to do. We encourage her to drink more water. She wasn't a good water drinker. Hydration is key. It's so vitally important to moving energy in the body. So you want to make sure you hydrate and drink lots of water throughout the day to move that energy. So those are really important things for many people to remember. And the retracing part can be that the stem cells are creating a little inflammation in the area. So as that happens, it's healing and repairing the area, and that typically will go away in a very short amount of time.
Thank you for that, because that does happen with people. And sometimes when people are really tired, their body just wants some rest.
Very true. And there are people who have put X39 on and have said to me, oh my God, I slept 14 hours. And that's only because their body needed that sleep so badly, right? So many people have sleep issues today. It's
Yeah.
such a common thing.
It's very common. So you talked about hydration and wearing the patches. We wear them for 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Could you explain to people, Anne, why they do that?
Yeah, it's really important because the brain, there's a part of the brain that will activate or kind of recognizes the signal. And when you are wearing it consistently, then that signal doesn't get recognized. It's called attenuation. So it's really important to give your body a break from that patch or that signal, so that when you put it back on again, that the brain will recognize the signal from that patch.
Great. What if someone forgets and they leave it on 24 hours?
My mom does it all the time. She's 92. So she often, I'll come back in the morning to see her and she still has it on and she'll say, oh, I forgot to take it off. So what I typically will tell her is just don't wear it for the next 24 hours and put it on the next morning. And so that's what we typically do with her.
Beautiful, beautiful. So 12 hours on, 12 hours off, stay well hydrated.
Right.
Compliance is quite high with this product, isn't it?
Yeah, and consistency of use is very important. The
Yes.
more consistent you are with using the patch, the more likely you are to get the benefits.
Beautiful, beautiful. So before we open up for questions, what else would you want to share with our audience tonight, Anne, about the technology, the product, anything that's important?
Well, I think that one of the things that I often like to talk about with folks is, everybody's an individual. We don't know how you are going to respond. I don't know your history. I don't know how well you eat. That's an important component for me. I'm all about food as medicine, and I'm all about the microbiome. And if you're not eating food for your health, and you're eating food that harms the body, like sugar, sugar is one of those big ones, right? And we love it. We love to have it. And we talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, right? Eating really well 80% of the time and having those cheats maybe 20% of the time is really important. So all of those things are important to health. Getting good sleep, exercising, drinking your water. We need to do a full body, taking care of our body holistically. So those are all important pieces of being well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I hope everyone heard what Anne just said. We've got to do our part. The patches are amazing, but taking care of ourselves, food is poison, food is medicine, and healing that gut can make a huge difference. And, hydration and rest and movement are all really important for being optimally healthy. And the patches will make a difference. So ready for some questions?
I am.
Okay, and if anyone has a story, please use the Q&A, and remember that we're not here to heal, diagnose, or treat any dis-ease. And if you're asking a question or sharing, please symptoms only, okay? And then we stay nice and compliant. So Cielo would like to find out, how do you patch people that are undergoing dialysis?
I would definitely want to use some glutathione for them, but always start with X39. I think X39 is the very first place you always start, and you want to wait and see how well they do with the X39 for sure. And because X39 is the patch that does everything, so that's why it's such an important patch. I often will do the Eon next because a lot of people who are going through these things like dialysis, they're really under a lot of stress. Their body is under a lot of stress. And Eon is a beautiful patch. And if they tolerate those, and I always like to do them in segments, I don't like to bombard the body with patches initially, especially somebody who's as fragile as somebody who's getting dialysis. So I will typically, start them off maybe with X39, monitor them pretty closely for a couple of weeks, see how they're doing. They're doing well, then we can bring in the Eon. And if they do well with that, then we might want to do glutathione next. Those would be the three that I would strongly recommend for somebody that's going through that process.
Beautiful. I heard a story, and I wish I had the person's name, who was getting dialysis 3 times a week using X39. And his nephrologist said, "I've never done this before. I'm taking you from 3 days a week to 1."
Wow, beautiful.
And guess what was happening? The kidney was healing. The kidney, regenerating with healthy cells. I don't want to say healing, it's regenerating with healthy cells. So
our stem cells are our building blocks, right? They're our building blocks to organs, tissues, so everything can start to heal and repair. It's our repair system.
beautiful. Okay, Michelle is saying, is it just people, the people that you talked about that shouldn't wear the patches, is that just X39 or is that the other patches too?
Okay, I'm not clear on that question.
You talked earlier, if someone's got an organ transplant or on immune suppressing meds, would that apply to the other patches or just X39?
I think it would be the X39 because of the stem cell. There are other patches that they certainly could use. If they're in pain, for example, they could use Ice Wave. The energy enhancers would allow things to flow freely. So yes, they could use other patches.
Okay, great, thank you. Janet says, a fellow LifeWave friend is asking if a family member can use X39 on a 9-month-old infant that has many issues. They're keeping him well hydrated. What's your response for that?
Well, I know that David often says, don't patch until they can speak. So that is kind of where he comes from. Now, I don't know what I would necessarily do if it was my grandchild. I may decide to do it and monitor real closely and watch real closely because, if you love somebody, you're going to try anything you can to help that individual. So, there's no reason why you can't try, but again, pay attention because they're not verbal. They can't tell you. So that's really important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I've heard people doing exactly what you said, Anne, is, the young one just was so compromised for whatever reason, and they just wanted to do whatever they could. And so they just stayed so attentive to watching if there was any agitation or any too much, too little, whatever. And so it's a judgment call, and we know that they're safe. But there are times, I've had some elderly people that had too many patches on and it was too much. It was just, and I love the way you said, don't bombard people with patches. X39 is so comprehensive that it's a great place to start. But if someone's in serious pain or they're not sleeping or they just had an accident or medical procedure, what would you recommend?
When someone is dealing with pain, you always want to get them out of pain. That's the most important thing you can do. So ice wave is always something that I want to start with when someone's in pain, putting the tan right where the pain area is, and then using the white as, and you can use the clock method. You can use it on opposite sides of the body. And I often add on because of the inflammation that you'll deal with somebody in pain. And when you use those 3 patches, I typically will see a great result, especially if you kind of create a triangle with your patch. So often you can do that by either putting, say it's in the spine, you put the tan right in the middle of the spine. You might move the other patch around and then put E on, maybe on the opposite side of the other white patch to get that triangle. So you get energy flowing for repair and healing. And then X39 always on the C7 or below the belly button, because that's the long game, right? You want new stem cells, because eventually you want them to be able to get off that ice wave. And that's what we want, is new stem cells to begin to regenerate new tissue. And then eventually people can get off the ice wave and the pain, because the pain will subside. I mean, I've patched people. And I have to tell you, one of my very first experiences with patching, my husband is home sitting at the table, and he's not believing this, right? He's pretty skeptical. And my daughter-in-law comes over with a really bad shoulder. And because she'd been in front of the computer all day, she's a social worker. And it was during that, period of time when she wasn't able to see them face to face. And she comes over and she can't even turn her neck. She can't raise her arm. And I'm, like I said, pretty new. It's been a couple of months. And I patch her with the tan patch right where the pain was, in the middle of her shoulder. I take the other one and I kind of move it around. She gets best result at the 3 o'clock position. I leave that there. I put E on the opposite side and X39 on her top of her spine. 4 minutes later, she went from 10 plus to 0. And she's turning her neck and she's raising her arm. And my husband's just sitting at the table and he's like, there is no way. He just could not believe it. I mean, it was that quick.
It is amazing. It's profound. And I love the way you're talking about the triangulation, because the patches open up the energy pathways. And when there's pain, it's usually stuck energy. So opening that up. And there's many different ways to use them. And so the beauty is you can't hurt yourself or you can't hurt anyone else, because nothing's going in the body. Oh, we got some more questions here. Let's see. You willing to stick around for a few extra minutes?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay. Jerry says, how about the patch for a person who just had an operation on for something in his kidney?
Are we talking pain? Are we talking repair? I mean, it sounds like if it's just fresh post-op, we're talking pain management, So if that's the case, then, always, if somebody's had surgery, wherever the pain is worse, you always want to put the tan where the pain is at its worst. And then you want to kind of move that white patch around to see where you're going to get best results. Now, one of the things that I suggest to people is go to YouTube. Put in LifeWave on YouTube, and what are you looking for to help? And put in that particular, is it, I want to help with back pain, or I want to help with knee, or I want to help with whatever it is that you're looking to do. And you'll often find practitioners or other people sharing their stories about the benefits they've gotten, so that, you can get those questions answered. But, and there's also a beautiful Monday morning miracle call chat that you can get on and hear powerful stories on that as well. So there's a lot of places you can get answers for a lot of your questions, for sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And X39 is always foundational, no matter what else you add, right?
It is, definitely.
Okay. So, and X39 accelerates healing dramatically. We're talking dramatically, and it doesn't matter how old someone is. We hear story after story after story after people have had every kind of procedure you can imagine. Their doctors, their practitioners, like, this is amazing. How'd you heal this fast?
And the other thing it does, Robin, is if you've had old wounds, and they're thick wounds, they end up thinning out, which is just amazing. Dr. Tom talks about his wound on his chest and how that got narrower. I had a friend who had 4 C-sections, vertical cut, and that improved. So it's amazing what X39 can do with wound and skin healing and skin repair.
Yeah, so if you have scars, take pictures.
Yeah.
And take picture if you're in our age range. Get some good lighting and take picture of your face, because you'll be amazed at what unfolds. Okay, let's see. Shelley says, I have an issue with ankle swelling and purple ankles, probably veins. Is there any of the patches that would be able to help?
Always X39. You got to think about X39 and everything that X39 does. And when you talk about skin and any kind of collagen and tissue, that is going to be, I guess I would be placing them right on my legs, right at that spot where they are, because one on each leg, because that's, what is going to give you the best bang for your buck. Some people will, use their X39 on their back, and the next day keep their old ones and put the old ones on their pets for a few hours, because there's a little bit of time. It's like a battery, right? The first 12 hours, it's really effective. And then you start to lose some of that charge, if you will, from the patch. But there's a little left. You can either patch your dog's collar with it, or you can use them in those places, put them right in those places where you're seeing, some of those issues. And swelling, I always want to talk about Eon. Because I had a gentleman that came to the door here who had so much swelling in one of his legs, and we did the Ice Wave X39, but it was Eon that he saw the benefit of reducing that swelling in his foot.
Beautiful.
So, love that Eon patch. Wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, Sunshine Rose is saying, what's the best way to approach a conventional AMA doctor? What do you recommend?
What I typically will do if I'm talking to a physician is I ask a lot of questions. First, you gotta make sure that they're open to alternatives, right? You don't want to just approach them and just, because some physicians are going to be very closed doors to that. But if they're open and you have a relationship with them, that's another important piece. If you don't have a relationship with them, they may not want to hear it, right? But if you can at least have a relationship or know someone that has a relationship with them that connect you to them, the very first question I'm going to ask is, are you familiar with GHK-Cu peptide? And if they say to me no, I ask them, are you open to looking at that and reading about it? And I tell them where to go, or I'll send you the link for it so you can look at it. And after you do your research and look at GHK peptide, would you be willing to chat with me after that? And let's have a conversation about why I wanted you to look this up. And then we can move forward. But it is, a step-by-step, especially with practitioners, you've got to be a little bit more cautious. They're very busy. A lot of people approach them. They don't want to be pushed into anything they're not ready for. So you really do have to take it one step at a time.
Well, you said several really important things. When approaching a practitioner, make sure you have a relationship with them. And then what Anne says, ask them if they're open. I have actually asked many MDs, I say that at first I discovered if they were open, and then I had like my orthopedic for my knee replacement said, he was open, he was willing, because he noticed how fast I healed. And I invited him to go to pubmed.gov, which is their trusted source, and research GHK-Cu. And typically what I've heard back is, I'm intrigued. So we don't dump a lot of information on them. We first open up the door. And sometimes I'll say, in the scientific world, this copper peptide is known as the holy grail of health, healing, and regeneration. So I'm do the same thing you do. Okay, we got a few more here. Do you do consults, Anne?
I do. And I have a Facebook page for those who are on Facebook. It's called Proactive Health with Anne /regenerative nutrition. So if that's something you want to connect with me that way, you can. The other way is my email, which is proactivehealthwithanne@gmail.com. And Anne is spelled with an E, A-N-N-E.
Proactive Health with Anne @gmail?
Correct.
Great. So Facebook page first, wonderful. Thank you so much. And we love recommending our practitioners because they know health, and they know the patches, and we can really help people with that because I'm not a practitioner. And so I want to refer people to the professionals. Okay, thank you. Ken is asking, where do you patch for if people have really bad aches in their head or back aches? Where do you patch them?
Okay, well, for head pain or discomfort, severe discomfort, there are a couple places you can use. Some people will use the temples. So they use the ice wave patch, tan on the left, white on the right. So white right, that's a good way to remember. And oftentimes I like to use the Eon on top of the tan patch. And if that doesn't work, right, the web of the finger right here is a pain patch area. And you can use, again, the tan on the left, the white on the right, and then put the Eon right on top. So those are a couple of areas that can help. You can also use the energy enhancers to move energy as well, because that can also help. And maybe I can talk real briefly about my mom who'd had an issue with brain injury when her blood pressure shot up. When they made some med changes, we did what we call a HAT protocol. And that is with a couple of energy patches. They're positive, negative charges. You move that energy around. We use glutathione on Eon on top of the HAT. And within a 5-hour period, my mom went from not being able to, she was telling me how confused she was. She was seeing a wheel that was spinning. She was seeing double. And she was having trouble walking and holding on to everything. And we put that HAT on at 3 p.m. and at 8 p.m. that night, it all went away. It was shocking to see the change in her. So my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, wow. So we had her wear that HAT for 2 weeks, like 4 or 5 hours a day. And then Dr. Tom, who's a neurologist, said, why don't we reverse the patches? So we reversed the patches on the HAT for another 2 weeks. And she's not needed the HAT now. It's been almost 4 or 5 months. She does use the X39, X49, and I use SB6 because she's got major sugar cravings.
That sugar will get us, won't it? And it's your mother. I mean, what that feels like when we can help a loved one. And again, safely, naturally, affordably, and most importantly, it works. It works. Okay, so let's see. Patty says, I'm having pain in both of my hips. How would I patch them?
I would use under the feet, because that is kind of the full body pain position where you would go right, the pad of the foot, you go right below the pad of the foot in the center called kidney 1, and you put the tan on the left, and then you put the white on the right. And I would put an Eon on top of that and X39 right in the back. And that'll create that triangle that we talk about and get the energy flowing throughout the body.
Okay, so are you guys getting the hint that Anne likes to do triangles and likes to use Eon with Ice Wave? I think so. I love it. I love it. Let's see. You know what, guys? We have a whole bunch more, and I'm just going to pick 1 or 2 more. Let's see. Heidi says, is it common to have rashing heat within an hour of removing X39 after wearing it overnight?
It happens sometimes with people who have more sensitive skin. And so for those people, they can either put them on their clothing. You can put them right in the back. You stick it right to your clothing in the back. It'll work just as efficiently. And I know that for some people, initially they're more sensitive, but as you use X39 and your immune system improves over time, you might find that you can try putting it back on your skin again and not have those reactions. So, give it some time.
That's beautiful. And I hope everyone heard that. It doesn't need to touch your skin. It's amazing that you can put it right on your clothes and it's going to work just as well. It's fabulous. Okay, last one. Anne Fishburne. As a nurse, do you watch for anything for someone on meds when they're starting to use the patch? Is there anything you specifically pay attention to?
That this came up today, Robin. So I'll share this story today. Usually I always start with X39 with everybody. That's kind of a place to start. And you keep an eye on how they're doing. Now, I had a gentleman that I worked with that I put X39 on, and he had, a reaction to it. I tried to get him to drink more water. We did a whole bunch of other things. I didn't see him getting better. So I felt like he probably was a lot more fragile than we expected. And that as remember, glutathione levels come up, inflammation, detox can occur. And he was just maybe more toxic than we expected initially and more fragile. So I then thought, okay, I'm going to go to Eon instead, and we'll wait on the X39. We'll do that later. So we went to Eon, and when we did the Eon, he was awake all night long that night. Total opposite reaction. I never see that happen. It's always the opposite, right? And so I called Dr. Tom. I said to Dr. Tom, okay. And he's like, whoa, this man is really fragile. So we ended up going Nirvana. Would you believe we went Nirvana, added Nirvana on him, and we kept him on Nirvana. It took a whole month. I mean, he noticed the difference with him really quickly with the Nirvana. Within 24 hours, he's calling me up and he's going, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then he called me up a week later. I have an appetite. I haven't had an appetite in years. I mean, lots of great changes. And then in a month later, we said, okay, let's now add the Eon. So then we added Eon, tolerated it well. We waited a little bit longer, and then we added the X39. So people who are on a lot of medications, have a long history of a lot of different things going on, they're going to be a little bit more fragile. So sometimes we have to deal with them a little bit differently, and we have to go a little bit slower. And that's kind of what we've discovered with certain individuals.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Well, there's even more questions. So for those of you that did not get your questions answered tonight, put them in the Q&A right in the beginning of the call, and then we'll get to them, okay? And oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I love learning from you. You're such a gift to our community, and your wisdom and your shining light are so wonderful for all of us. And I love having you on this call. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Robin. I really enjoyed it.
I love it. I love it. And lots of people, you want to look in the chat, because people are saying thank you, claps and hearts and all kinds of wonderful things. And if you're new this evening, if you're here as a guest and you're just learning about LifeWave and X39 and the technology, please get back to the person that invited you and get started. There is no risk. We have a 30-day risk-free guarantee. We have a wonderful customer program. If you're just using this for yourself, if you're someone who likes to share, then make sure that you get set up as a member distributor, and there's a wonderful compensation program to support you. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be with us this evening. It's been wonderful to have you, and look forward to our next session. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.